Testing. Ohau Mitakia. We're about ready to get started here shortly, and I will introduce myself. And then while I'm introducing myself, I'd like to get all the tokalas that are coming in at Grand Entry to go by the registration table there to come in, bring the staff in. So go ahead and get out there, and I'll introduce myself very quickly. My name is Ivan Looking Horse from Greengrass, South Dakota. My Lakota name is Shongila Sapa, which means black fox in translated English. And I'll be your MC today for the meeting here, June 15, 2024. And we will get here started here shortly. And I have a strategy session for this year, for this Black Hills Restoration Act. So we'll get all those, and there'll also be a roll call of all the tribes here shortly. So all the representatives will be ready for that. And we'll also have a few things that we'll be starting off with, and then once we get those done, there'll be some introductions of the relatives that will be speaking to you and let you know how things are going right now and some good news that was given to us. So anyway, those will be all here shortly, and as soon as we get the high sign from the door over there, the drum group, I can't remember what their drum group, I think it's Cheyenne Creek. Was that? Creekside, all right. Creekside drum is here, and they'll be doing all the singing for us today, prayer songs, Akichita Oloa, Tokala Oloa, some of the land meeting songs and Ocheti songs. So there'll be a lot of songs sung today along with this meeting here as we go along. So as soon as they are ready, we'll get started with the Tokala Oloa. And this here, Tokala Oloa, is just not a song that is sung every day at any power. This is for the warriors to be standing back up, and I think they call them themselves Oyuchpe, but they are a different society that is here, and a warrior society. So they'll be bringing in the staffs for the meeting here shortly here. As soon as we get set, we'll go and start with that there. Once the staffs are in, we're gonna have a prayer by Richard Broken Nose, and then a Woksape by Manny Ironhawk, and then we'll have the Whipman do his introduction and song. Then we'll go through that, and once those are all in place, we're gonna have a roll call. So anyway, that's how things are gonna be starting up here shortly. As soon as we get things ready at the door, the drum group will start up. When the drum group starts up, that's when we'll be starting everything here with the agenda. All right. So welcome you all today, and we have a good meeting. And Abelhage Apple, this is a lot of children depending on you in the future for making good decisions today. So that's how we're gonna kind of run the things today. Eventually, hopefully, one of these days we'll get the entire Black Hills back, because we are just now organizing here and learning what strategies we can use to get things set for our children, our seventh generation that is here. So anyway, those are things we're working at, and I appreciate everybody that is working in that direction. And you're all here. So hopefully I'll teach you out below. Testing. Okay, I think we're about set. So you guys get to your places, and they'll be bringing the staffs in here shortly. So I think they are set out there. I was ready. So whenever they come to that door, drum group, you can start the song. Trokala olo ke ahiak te he un ya tuma ahiuk te tawapaha kilena. It's a blhich apo le zuya olo hetcha cha. It's a so ichet le wa tawapaha kilena tuma ahiuk te lo. They're gonna bring in the staffs with a warrior song, so have a brave heart, have courage, and have good thoughts, good things that happen for our people. These here songs are not sung just for the heck of it. These are songs to put your mind in the place where it needs to be, and your heart and your body, your soul, to be all here present, and to make a good meeting for today for the people, to see a good future for the young generations that are here. There's a lot of changes coming, so get ready. Hook guy. Ano along kaya hiyak tilo. Tuno lagi ki waslay na jipo. Ja, I talked on he hopped up yapelo when he left hair in each job. Whip man. Wana tawa pa ki tuma upelo hecheto. wapa tukala olo ankele wupila icheta. Awana etches awana le paslata ke woche ke optula Richard Broken Nose. Woche ke ki inktelo che. Mike was kila tanjit. O wana woche ke ki inktecha Richard iwaho yapelo. Atahani gluenki. Woche ki watu chakchaka. Hukkai.
Sit on. Oache un capitolo opening meeting wana heche. Se sapa wa khanki heche hina etkia wan kun woche ki un capitolo. Amitakri tono ke sa un ya hipi ki hina oyasla wichoda ni wozani un kashla khankai ni un kupitolo. Hot khankashla. Hokashla khanka. Oni ni snala ni wakha. Tak ni wakha ema khakishim. No istak ni etkia hoyewa. En khamahoki. Hoeshe. Machpia woki maechu wakata mahoki. Ya ikta ki hek hoemi echawahina ozem. Hot khokashla khanka heche. Omniche waheche wana ya unkia piktacha. Tak wo avaleze. Tak wo kakhne ota khokashla khanka. Chante ki na nasulaki, olena ohunkesh ne wichasha kelena heche. Wo abaleze wo kakne kan heche. Khesapa wo akhan khesapa wakhan ki unkiki chupik techa eat khokashla khanka ena etkia wo ki unkupie ea heche hoya. So the now meeting is now open. O ana heche tuelo metakuye oyase.
Ahu. Wopila lo Richard. When woke up, I think the many iron hawk a chrig up to the woglocking to the wokes up each chet. Okay.
Oh, man. Ya lila yok pia wa chiankapi le am petuki. Aya la ko charge wa beluha you ha money. Togakan emcha. Na ya dona ya hipi. Na dona la ko iapiki ya gloni chapi. Hena togata ke uyakite. Na wa khanja thakoja hena you happy kite hecha. Petukile ya lila wopila thanka bluha. Ya oftele lakel woglag mashita. Ya helogna nawaji. Naha ya dokolo ihika. Wowake waki hiki ya mija ichama. Naha ya hechis petukile wa hinaji. Na yunka ya wana mija ya washichu iwank de yaka tukia la kolia be omosbe na ha ohaka washichu waki kchi chamana kita kchi omosbe kes echa. I'm going to switch to e-language. My relatives, I welcome all of you today. This meeting is very important today. And I'm glad to see all of your relatives here today. Come in with an open mind and seeing the Chesapa as it is, and that everything it is, that we must move forward with this. It's not about us in this room. It's about our children and grandchildren. So they may see something good. And when we get the Chetapa land, Makoche back, I predict a great social change to happen within the Lakota Oyate, of all the bands. Our grandchildren and children are gonna see something positive from this. So I pray that way. And you know, social change, one man can do that. Gandhi did it. If you know your history, Martin Luther King did it. If you need your history and read your book, you would know and see. And it is our time for the Lakota to get our land back and start the healing process that was needed so much. Even today, we need to heal from this process. So I pray for that. And we must have fortitude today, plus unity, for this to work. We cannot afford to let this opportunity go. How long do we wait if we let it go? Another 40 years? Most of us here in this room will not be here in 40 years. So it's time to unite and think about the future, not about us. Wana, ena hechitu. The future generations are here, and more are coming. Yeah, we must come in a Lakota way in everything. Even when you're in not a good situation, you must put it in your heart of Wochatanganake and Lakota way, and following the values that are attached to your way you live every day. So let's walk on the red road again today for our children and the future generations to come. We must, this is our fight. And one of our elders in the previous meeting said, the Black Hills are worth fighting for. And I remember that. And you must remember that too. It's not going to be, it's our fight. It's not going to be our children's and grandchildren's doing, but it's going to be ours. Let's start today. Taho, pilamaya pelo, hoka.
Wopila lo tanshi. Awana hecha sala. Ichapsita wichasha kelewana. Ogla king tilo. Anagupta kapo. But this time, we'll be going with the meeting protocol by Jim Reddigo. He's going to set the meeting agreements and time limits on speaking, and he's going to do his whipman history. So, Jim Reddigo, Huka. Right behind me. Snuck up on me.
Madakia. Jim Wabadi Macha. Namakota, Damakota, Malakota. Mamnina Dabada Nakojiagi Abino. For you that don't understand Nakota, my Indian name is Charging Eagle. I earned that name the second time I was almost killed in the line of duty. I went home, and my grandmother's had a naming ceremony. Wind Chief, Esther Big Mouth, that my grandpa, Buster Four-Star, conducted. Before that, I was given this whip to carry. I was 25. I've carried it since. They set me aside and they taught me the teachings of this. We also had women's societies. And we had women whip carriers in those societies. I don't like using it on women because they're the ones that care for us. They're the ones that care for our elders, our children. But that's a place where, if we had a woman, she would do something. They asked me to come to help with the meeting, so we will end in a timely manner. So there's a limit of 3 minutes during the committee reporting. So if you have a question, that's what that time is for, to ask a question. So try to limit it. I know traditionally we introduce ourselves, we say where we come from, but remember your question, so I don't have to use this. When you get hit by it, it represents being hit by thunder. So wakia oyate. I belong to the grass dance society you call the Omaha Society. And my grandpa was one that got it because he had a perfect memory. He remembered everything they told him. There's a lot of untruths out there about it. I still go. I prepared the puppy at sunrise for that ceremony. But I've held positions through it. Just a little history. I come from Carry the Kettle First Nation in Saskatchewan, Canada, just south of a town called Sinte Luda. I'm not originally from Carry the Kettle, though. I'm from Tibihanska, Ospaya, Chief Long Lodge. When my grandfather passed away, they combined our band with Carry the Kettle. My grandpa came down here, he signed one of these treaties at Fort Laramie. After that time, when the Washichu first come on our land, he came upon a fort and he led an attack to drive those people out of their fort. When they abandoned their fort, he lived in the long barracks that the soldiers slept in. And after that, he was called Tibihanska, Long Lodge. That's how my grandpa earned his name. He had a different name when he signed that treaty down here. Like I said, the other thing, one of the teachings that goes with this is that you just can't show up and use it. I was invited here. Before you use it, you have to show the people. If there's one whipman, they go around one complete circle. When they turn, then they can start using it. If there's two, they each go around in separate directions. They meet in the middle, they turn. Once they turn, they can start using it. You have to show the people. So they're going to sing a song for a whipman. I have my own song that was given to me when they gave me this. But they're going to sing a society song for the whipman. They're going to put my Indian name in it, my Ramkota name. Wambri Watakape. That was the name of a grandpa named Shakawi, his father. Shakawi was Ugalala Lakota. I'm also Hunkpapa Lakota. My grandpa was Hayankpaza Tonka, Big Darkness. And he was a brother to Sitting Bull. My grandpa, he had power. He would demonstrate his power by making dolls out of grass. And he would sing to them. And he would make them dance. That's one way he demonstrated his power. Somebody, this is hard to carry. When they gave me my name, they said that it's to help you in life, to give you strength. Yeah. Anyways, somebody should have cut me off at 3 minutes. Had to whip myself. Usually my wife is with me and she starts going like this. So let's carry on and hit you two.
Oka wambli watak pe watiki wachini apolo. Olo je nicha yak telo. Hoka okaki olo je kicha yapo. Eche waslai na je po wana. Wachik telo. Yellow Tuesday. Depend on Charging Eagle to help you with this meeting today. Give them the honor, respect. Just gonna do that for you also. So we're gonna keep this here going. Wopla for Mambli Watakpe. Ihuna na waokilo. Echitulo. Oka, wana iglu humnelo. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Okay. Wopila Chanchaga Creekside. Okay, we got a little presentation, very quick like before we do the roll calls.
Hello, my name's Tom Swiftbird. Family is from Wolf Creek, South Dakota. Before we get started here, I just wanted to do a quick training on these table mics. So to turn it on, we just hit the center button, and once it turns red, it's on. And you can hear just talking like this. You don't got to be right up on this mic, like you don't got to be like right up on it. Even if you stand and talk, or you kind of sit and just lean it toward you, but stay back a little ways, it'll pick you up just fine. So yeah, just remember that. You don't got to be quite right up on it. Even standing, even kind of being a little bit back, it'll pick you up. So that's how we use those. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we're gonna go into our roll call for all the tribal people of the Ocheti, Shakaway, Titoa, 7th Council Fire. We're gonna name off a band, and if you're present, say Hao, Akisa, or Lili, so we know you are here. The first one is Oglalas. Oglalas are here. Sichangu. Sichangu Kahiunilo. Hunk Papa. Hunk Papa Kahiuni. Many Poju. Okay, many cozy. It's Joseph. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, Henupa. Hey, yeah. Siha Papa. Siha Sapa. Yahiuni ho. Oh, ha, Echito. Yank Tane. Yahiuni ho. Oh, Kuwichata. Okay. Santi Data Oyate. I think I seen one sitting here, but he left. Okay, Hunkpati Oyate. Nobody there. Sisaten Wapaten Oyate. There was one here earlier, but okay. Any other tribes? All of you say Hokai. Okay. That's for all the roll call of all the tribes. Now we'll be singing, the Creek side will be singing the song for the Black Hills Crazy Horse song. So, Okaki, he ahiok the low nahan, we're gonna have a recap or action items for the meeting here. Will be done by Richard Moosecamp and Nick Tilson. So, alone, they're gonna sing the Crazy Horse Black Heel song. Those of you that can stand for this year, Baslai Najim. Yeah. Echa. Shuka Witko. Kaolo Ahia Pilo. Kasapa. Tekikila. Now which one I used to. You call Ala Pete Glony Hampilocha. Wochike Kicha Kam. Now it's a Chateta Kasapa. Yakik Chukata. Wochike Kakapo. Ahoo. Wopila Creekside. Oh, I had I stuck with go to Loan, I hear Kesapa, I chat. Kesapa, we trying to get unka so let's just got heat track up. I know each I Wopila to low. There's a lot of old spirits in the Black Hills that look this way to give us the help that we need today. Oh, huh. So we're going to have Richard Moose Camp come up here, and Nick, come on up, or wherever. There's a microphone over there. Okay. And they're going to go the meeting. And I read a little bit of what happened so far. Updates. Oh, huh. Okay. As soon as they get to the microphones, they will turn them on and they'll give you the message that they have.
Well, the here Nick, the chanter you ha one shigala capado na ha. I mean chante ta you ha it chigalusto pado. On a leon petu ki ha ya tunskawa ki na ha. O kola kitche. Native connective treaty oyatic yaga here. Kesapa yagaliwita pun kalila wopila. The honey we talked and we know Oyartik, we talk on Kua Open Head, so the Hon Yanisha Hetchik Chano, you can lila wopila. Wotchik Ayastag, Chanupa who ugly Bloketo, Wipazut Kawashtiki, Waheha, Yuha, Lechi Agalipun Kaya, we talk on Kilana, Wakayalo, Chanke Lila Wibulushkialo. I want to thank my nephew, Mr. Tilson. Have stood up and fought for this land. You are the descendants, every one of you in this room, that you're continuing that sacred fire and our purpose of gathering here today is, first of all, we have all our feathers and all of our ceremonies. We remember, honor our ancestors. As we come here in the month of Wipazut Kawashte, June, our ancestors, we come to the sacred land. We remember our people, but we're looking forward for the future generation. We have to do this. You are the real descendant. You are the original people here. If all of the tribal governments fall today, you will be the only one standing. You're the only one that's going to continue. Always remember that you are from the original people. We just remembered Kashunkewicz. We remembered all of our grandfathers, the grandmothers. It's very honored to be a part of this gathering, witness and hear prayers and songs. Ochanke from Machante, I'm proud of my nephew, Kunshka Nick Tilson, and all of the Tokalayatis from the grand entry. Now actually, we're still alive. We're still here. We're going to continue this great move forward. We're not going to get stuck in the history. We're not going to get stuck in the past. We're going to move forward. Perhaps someday in the future, when all these little takuras that are running around, they'll continue, and the land will be in the hands of our people. The title, the reality of the future, everyone will get along good together. Life has to get better for all of us. today crimes are happening against our children, our women, our people. O Ash, we have to continue with our prayer na chanupa. O chanke wahe ha abkhar shindo pilama ya apelo.
Hamadak Nick Tilson, Amachi Yapi, Chantel Washington up at Chuzapalo. My name is Nick Tilson, Oglala Lakota from Pine Ridge. And we came up here to always remind folks what the purpose of this meeting is, what the purpose of all of our meetings have been so far. Also, there's folks who couldn't make it to this meeting, so it's online too. So there's people who are experiencing this meeting and the purpose of what this meeting is and what our goals are for the first time. So I know that some people in here have been to all of these meetings, but we're restating the purpose of these meetings for the purpose of folks that are online too. And maybe for folks in this room who it's the first time coming to this meeting. Because we have a lot of meetings about the land, we have a lot of meetings about the treaties, we have a lot of meetings about different things. The purpose of this meeting, and we always called it, we always called it the Black Hills, the Chesapa strategy meeting, because the purpose of this meeting was specifically about the Chesapa, specifically about the return of the lands in the Black Hills. And the strategy that we have come forth out of these meetings is a strategy to return the public lands in the Black Hills back to the Lakota people. That's what the purpose of this is. And the strategy that we have taken collectively is to draft a bill that comes from the Oyate, that comes from the people in this room, that comes from the treaty councils, that comes from the tribes. We didn't go find somebody in Congress to draft a bill for us. We're doing that through this process and have been doing that. And I know, especially because we're on the radios to the different communities, you know, anytime that we hear about the Black Hills, there's concern right away. And I want to make sure that people understand who are listening and folks that are in the room, relatives that are in the room, that this meeting and no part of this meeting has anything to do with accepting the money for the Black Hills claim. If there's somebody who came here to talk about accepting the money for the Black Hills claim, then you came to the wrong meeting and you can excuse yourself. So it's important. And to relatives who are listening, to the grandpas and to the grandmas and aunties and uncles and relatives back in all our communities, we want to rest assured and be very transparent that that is not the purpose of this meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to get the land back. And I said this before too, because a lot of times people say things online, but if you look around who's in this room and who's been involved throughout this process, if there was an effort to try to take the money and to do that type of thing, it's the people in this room that would be the ones resisting it. It would be the ones that are in this room standing up against that, because many of us are the ones who are called upon to do that. Many of us who have the responsibility to do that. And when we first started this effort, it was always started, we went directly to the Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty Council. We sat down with our elders. We looked at different strategies. We looked at the Bradley bill that was done in the 80s, the pros and the cons of that. And then through this process, an entire new bill was created that's way stronger, than previous ones. And the idea, one of the strategies, overall arching strategies to this, is to make sure that we have a bill that represents our values, that represents what our goals are, that represents what we're about as a people and what we've been saying for a long time. And it's been hard to navigate, back and forth, navigate the fact that we are operating in a colonial construct. Congress is a colonial construct. The United States government is a settler colonial government. And we're a sovereign people. We're a free people. We have never given up our sovereignty. We have never given up our inherent rights. We still occupy those inherent rights. And so we've been navigating how to make a piece of paper reflect those values, because we know the history in working with the government is they twist things. And so that's been the purpose of the meeting, and also that this effort's been led by everybody in the room. So the structure of these meetings have been that we create different committees. Many of you in this room and some people online sit on those committees, and in those committees, they move work forward. Work is moving forward. So it's been a grassroots organizing model that we have been doing here. And so that's been the structure that have been taken. All of the different treaty councils have their protocols. The IRA government have their protocols. All of the different protocols that are in place through the different decision-making bodies of our people. Our ask has been to get support from those decision-making bodies for this. And the Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty Council has been the one that has been leading the way on that. Meaning that if we didn't get the consent of the Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty Council, the first meeting would have never happened. There never would have been a first meeting. And that part's really important, because when we talk about the erosion of the rights of our people, free and prior informed consent is important. That was the decision-making body that was in place to help move this forward. And then, because if they said no, we wouldn't even have worked on this. And then, from that point on, bringing in other decision-making bodies, because we know that there's several different treaty councils, there's different TOSHPIs, there's different tribal governments, and because we know that this can only be accomplished. It can only be accomplished if the grassroots people, the treaty councils, and the IRA governments collaborate with each other, because what we're proposing is an act of Congress. An act of Congress to return the public lands in the Black Hills, which is 80% of the Black Hills, to be clear. 80% of the Black Hills is public lands. So I'll say that much at this time, just reminding folks about the meetings. We're gonna hear the report backs from the different committees. But one of the things that was really important, and we have a special announcement that's gonna be coming from the Hunkpapa here shortly. So Lakshmi Cedric and the Hunkpapa have something that they want to share. And the thing that I'll say is that it's important for us to get written consent from our tribes and from our treaty councils. And so the different so this next era of work that we're heading into is for the people to do that. But our strategy has always been, we're not sending people from different tribes to go to this tribe or to this tribe or to this tribe to move that forward. We're inviting people from those bands and those tribes to be in this meeting, to be a part of this process. And then the members of those tribes and those bands, if they want their leaders to take something forward, then we have them do that. If that makes sense. The Hunkpapa have been organizing up there Oglala's been organizing the Sichangu, the Minikoju, all the bands. But even though it's a slower process, it's important because the people who those tribal leaders are accountable to need to hear from the people from their community, need to hear from the people, the elders in their community, need to hear from the treaty councils and the grassroots people from their community. And so that's been ongoing. Many of this, there's a draft resolution going around getting support for the Black Hills Sacred Lands Restoration Act. And to be clear, again, this didn't come from an outside force. There's no outside force that exists that was pushing this. This came from the people. And we went to ceremony. In fact, there's people from the spiritual committee, who today are visiting some of the sacred sites because that was what was told in the ceremony while this meeting is happening. And we'll hear from the spiritual committee about that later too. So that's the purpose of the meeting. That's a little bit of the background. But before we start getting into the different updates from the committees, we wanted to hand it over to the Hunkpapa and let them share some of the work that they've been working on up in their homelands.
Okay, that'll be Cedric Goodhouse and Sissy Goodhouse. Updates on Standing Rock, Hunkpapa, Buka Elialo.
I learned something from the workshop this morning, so. Where do I start, I wanted to, I wanted to first introduce my wife. Somebody said tomorrow's Father's Day, so one day she woke up and she said, "Wichasha, kikita." She said, what you gonna do for me today? I said, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be a father. So ever since then, Father's Day has always been shared, and Mother's Day has been special for her. So, but when I first came to these meetings, we listened to when we first started coming to these meetings, we listened to all that's being said and all that's being asked for, and to be more involved with our people. And we took that to heart, because I'm in my 70s now, and I've been through other attempts, and our biggest downfall is ourselves. And I didn't want that to happen again. And I think that the approach that we're doing here is that when we showed up, you can't show up and be a watcher. You have to be part of the movement. You're on a committee, and you're offering whatever it might be, to further this cause. When I went home, we got together, took all the information, and we went to our judicial committee, and we talked to them. Because you have to go through a committee, the legislative process, I believe that every IRA government has. We have one too, where we have to go to a committee. So we went to the judicial committee with all this information, and my niece here, Jody Archambault, her and I, we went there, and we talked to them about the legislation. And we got favorable comments from it. They understood where we're at, and they decided that they would support us, and that they would further that to our full council. And in the meantime, we got on the radio, KLND, back home. We got on the radio, we got our message out to our communities and to all the listening area of KLND, and I believe it extends down to Cheyenne River. And I don't know if anybody's heard it down there, but we talked about the bill as well on people and those that were listening. And I had favorable comments. I've been asked to go to our communities and to further that discussion. And so that's still in plan. We will do that. But since that time, you know, we have two of our governing body that accompanied us today, and I want to introduce them before I go any further. To my left here is Sissy. Of course, she's not a governing body; she's my but and then there's Stephanie Yellowhammer, and she sits on our council, and then there's Alice Birdhorse on the next one over, who also sits on our council. But when we took this issue to our governing body, we were well receptive, and you know, I wanted to say that because, you know, we're a little ways from the Black Hills, but we respect it and honor it just as much as any other Lakota in this room. There is a story. We have a story of an elderly gentleman that was pretty sick, and they were coming. They said, we'll go to the Black Hills and we'll have prayers. So they brought him this way on horseback, and he had a travoy, and they brought him. And he got pretty sick, and they came over the hill, and they could see the Black Hills. And that's where they stopped, and they had prayers. And he came out of his sickness. That's how sacred this place is. And you know, we have these stories that have permeated our people. We have stories that Sitting Bull did not want to sign the treaty because that treaty limited our people. That he said that we are forgetting our relatives to the north. Today it's Montana and up into Canada. We're forgetting our people over to the east, Spirit Lake and western Minnesota. So he got together about 300 people, and they went up to Canada because they were aggressively wanting people to sign that treaty. They took a detachment of people, and they went around actually getting signatures at different places. So we have this document that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes to our people. And we often look at treaty, and there's a very important part. Not only does it lay out the land base, but it says in there, for absolute and undisturbed use and occupation. For absolute. Those are things that we need to define as we move along. It is the non-Indian that said these words. They have treaties of canons of construction that talk of it should be understood in the way that, and for the people that it was made for. So I know in our hearts, when we took this to our governing body, it is with those feelings and compassion knowledge that has been kept through families, that's how they looked at it. So I wanted to turn this mic to Stephanie and Alice. I respect them. They are on our governing body, and allow them to talk about our government action.
Hamadakyapi, Stephanie Yellowhammer Amachiapi. I am a tribal council representative at large with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And I just wanted to read an excerpt from the resolution that was passed. Jody and I believe Nick were handing out the motion supporting that resolution. Therefore, be it resolved that the Standing Rock Sioux tribe strongly supports the return of all federal lands within the sacred Haisapa Black Hills to the Lakota people, and be it further resolved that the Standing Rock Sioux tribe supports the idea of creating and introducing a bill into Congress for the return of the federal land in the Black Hills to the Lakota people. And be it further resolved that the Standing Rock Sioux tribe hereby requests assistance from the Office of the U.S. Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland with some of the technical aspects of drafting rights guaranteed to the Lakota Nation by the federal government. The tribe also commits to working in alliance with treaty councils of the Lakota Nation to return federal lands in the Black Hills. And be it finally resolved that the Black Hills were stolen and must be returned. The Black Hills are not for sale. I'm gonna pass the mic off here to my counterpart, Ms. Birdhorse.
Madakiapi, Chante Washem, but not Chuazapi. My name is Alice Birdhorse, na Oye Wambliwi. I am the council at large for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. So thank you to Lekshi for giving a great insight onto the journey that him and Mashke Jody were on. So I'll read our council motion. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe regular tribal council meeting, Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. Motion number 55. Motion was made by Charles Walker, second by Sorrel Archambault, to approve, to support, and initiate the Sacred Black Hills Restoration Act by resolution. The vote was 10 yes, 0 no, and 1 not voting. Motion carried. That was, there was some misunderstandings, so we had to clarify that we support the idea of it and for all of us to come together and work together unanimously. So, thank you.
I want to thank everybody for being here. It is truly an honor to speak before you and to have this brought forward. We also would like to visit with other of our relatives to the south and to the east and wherever we'd like to sit down and visit. We talked of hosting a meeting on Standing Rock, and that's going to be a reality soon. And when we do that, you know, we wanna be able to share these documents and how we can go beyond where we're at, because you know this movement is it's a sacred movement, and you think that we have we have a prayer here. You know, back home, we pray too every day. So I wanted to say about that much and be after being given the time to introduce what we have done back home, and it's still ongoing. We still plan on going to our communities. We still plan on visiting with our relatives back home, and we still plan on doing further things to maybe get it school system. My wife is a teacher at the high school in Fort Yates, and I know they do treaty work and treaty study, and maybe I wanted to have her talk a little bit about things that they do in her school, her class.
Amitakiapi, you had chante pashen sapi. This is a good house, amachapi. You know, I carried in my heart the sacredness of the Chesapa. Now, my grandparents, I was raised with them, Helen Buber and Charlie Sheltrack. And my dad's mother, Nally Blackhoop. And she never spoke much, but when she did, it was always something that she was teaching me. You know, when I started working at the school, I had them start having a prayer on Monday, end with a prayer on Friday, and they gave me tribal government. I couldn't find any resources. So I started with our tribal constitution, and we have to go interview somebody at tribal office. And they also have to attend in their community with a signature from an adult there. They also do PowerPoints of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, 1851. People good the technology, so I use that. And in culture this year, one of the other classes that I teach, I had the girls making washtunkala and making choke cherry patties. And I had the young men fix a line for them for papa that they made in the class. And the young men, I said, you like to be on that Chromebook or laptop, and I had them, you look up, see what the Washichu say about our traditional foods. I talked to them about songs that they have to go interview singers and learn a song. So I really focus on that, so when they come, they can understand what we're talking about in the treaty. And I've had some good PowerPoints. Someday I'll share them. And they also followed those sacred items that they brought back. I had young ladies and young men say, my tioshpaye, we burn them. I just told them to write whatever they thought. So that was different thoughts, but they didn't want them to be showed. If you're gonna show them, leave them in that museum. So I demanded a lot, because when they go to college, I want them to be ready. And I wanted to share with you one last thing that I share with my students. We share a prayer like we did here, and I try to sing a song to them. Oh, te kiha wa mayaka le mi yelo la kroi chohan ki trewa khila yelo hey de yo io ti e wa ki yelo ai hey oh hey oh hey hey oh hey hey oh hey oh hey oh hey oh hey oh hey oh io ti e wa ki e lo ai oh li 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 li. That's a drum song. And that drum is saying that although they had a hard time, they came back. That drum unifies us with people of other nations also. So I wanted to share that. And I showed my students schoolwork that I did. Took me a long time. I went to school with them and I told them, as old as I am, I'm going to be finished with you guys, I told my seniors. So I did, I finished. It was kind of difficult because writing is hard for me. So, but my husband encouraged me to finish. And the students always ask me, let me see your paper, let me see your paper. So May 6th, I finished finally with my master's degree in education and curriculum. I told them, don't wait till you get old. All of you young people sitting in here, I had help with technology. I want to encourage you all to keep working on this bill. My students listen to the council meetings and they ask me, who's speaking? So I told them that when I run for tribal council, I want you to vote for me. Mitaki Awasi.
Thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Huka wopilalo hunk papa oate ke tesa bona khwaste wagla kapelo. Ake wana le wichasha wa ihunina wa paha wa icheta iwogla kik te ko Harold left heron lecha una aptela wapkhini chuktelo. I'm going to have a man that's going to talk about the wapaha word here. Harold left hand. Achaka oka Danielo.
Aha lel osla najikelo. Ja mi tako je pit hoka je leče wa alia čempia glagla ungluita pina omniče. Uži ulapina leče o ai uži ki chau ya pikte yunkala lila yoma ki pielo. Ata komni oyate thawoka ki je ki levo jielo. O he ule ampetu mi tueki omichigla ke wakila wapchechona la kile. O hechel tiosh paet khanta he echa una wicha kchiji wahi. Excuse me on English, so I want to ask my relatives to forgive me for that. I lived my life as Harold Salway, but I'm left Heron. I changed my name back to left Heron. My great grandpa Makula left Heron. His Tioshpaya was around Wambly area. Then Chief Lip moved in and he left and was doing national things with the other Itchachans. Well, why I wanted to ask for time is I came in with the staff. In 1979, Fulsker brought me out in the middle and at a Sundance and gave me a staff in front of everybody, told me to look out for my Tioshpaya. And my Misu Steve Debray, he's a witness. There's a lot of people that saw that. In 1990, Oliver Red Cloud, Royal Bull Bear, Johnson, Holy Rock, Vincent Brinks, Plenty, a bunch of all them old men came together and they identified 7 of us. And for almost 2 years, in 88 to 90, they researched all of us and they selected me to put the Wapchaha on. And they made me a headman because I do truly represent a Teoshpaya, a traditional community. And that's where I come from. So I'm a left Heron. But beyond that, to represent O'Unkhani, traditional government. Traditional government is what governs a people that the world will listen to, and I think that's important. That's why I came in with these staff. So Oliver put that headdress on me. Pete Ketch has done the prayer ceremony. Gerald One Feather done the announcing. 1990, Gerald One Feather and I started researching Tiosh by a traditional government. It started in July in 1990 in Standing Buffalo, Canada. So we researched traditional government and what Tiosh Paya means and what it's all about. So up to 2008, that's what I learned about what traditional government is. And that's the backbone, the foundation of our O'Unkhani, our traditional government. So coming here today, when I heard the statement that Tunshka Nick said, Black Hills are not for sale, and we want our land back. That's what brought me here, Cha, Wopila. Now I think that's why it's important that we keep coming together to fight, keep fighting the fight. And for all of us that do really believe in what we do and what we've been a part of, that's why I'm here. I know by all the years of research what traditional government's about, Tioshpaya. And I've been saying that for a long time. We need to go back to who we are as a people, as a Oyate. Very important. I'm a pretty fluent speaker. I grew up traditionally. I grew up in a traditional community down at Bear Creek. I live my life in a traditional way. And I want to try to contribute and leave my legacy. Amitaku yepi wichoku jesuta ahima glelo chaugana oapche chona lake wana makaka monik te seche ogna manieti unji nupa yamni seche ash hel ioko taku waslolwana taku spimicheki heliopta wat khechas e wichak pemni wachami alo woksa pechona la wichabla haki he eche un oyate tkhokata ke o ayeki hena echa un yuha maoni pi wachami alocha. I want to say thank you for allowing me a little brief time to talk about what the Wapchaha represents, and there's a very spiritual, sacred purpose of that headdress. It's not a toy, it's not a garment. So I wanted to pass that on to you. I want to hear this story. Catch up to me on the side and I'll tell you about it.
Oh, thank you, Harold. Okay, we're gonna keep on going down the agenda here. And the next one will be a bill drafting committee will be Tracy Zephyr. So she'll have, there she's right behind. Thank you. Okay, she's gonna grab her things. Meanwhile, we're talking a little bit about the Wapha. We need to bring that back in order. Okay, he says, stay off your phones out of respect for others, and also if you are going beyond a 3-minute time limit for the questions, just keep the questions to the short and quick, and then the whip man will give you 3 minutes to ask your questions, and not go on and on. But the first one is be a bill drafting committee, and then you have questions for her. That's what he wants, is to be up to the question to be clear and understanding and get it done within the 3-minute time limit that is allowed. So I guess that's what we'll be doing here. So the first one will be the bill drafting committee, and Tracy Zephyr is ready here. So thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Ivan. Apetu washte, everybody. I'm not going to take a long reintroduction because I think a lot of those in the room today have been here before, and I'm glad to see you all again and continue this good work forward. I'm Tracy Zephyr. I'm a Dazipjo Lakota, citizen of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Been a longtime attorney for my tribe and some other tribes that are present in the room today. Now working with Indian Collective as an attorney, and so glad to be here. My family, I should say, fights the thunder. I'm from Thunder Butte originally. So I wanted to give an update on the work that the committee has been doing. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge those who have been on the committee who are also in the room that have been spending a lot of time on this. Been working together. So Manny Ironhawk is in here, Steve Moran is in here, Harry Little Thunder's in here, Jody Archambault's also worked on this, Andy Reed is in the room, Elaine Yellowhorse, who's not in the room, I don't think, but had a lot of input on this as well. There's probably others, and I apologize if I'm missing anybody, but those are the core group who's been helping me with this. So it's not just me, it's all of us. We're all working together on this. When you checked in at the meeting this morning, you should have received a copy of the bill itself it's a final draft. It's going to change, but this is what we've come up with. It's 17 pages, I think. There's a lot in there. And then you also received a bill summary, which is just a 2-page kind of shortened summary of what that 17 pages contains. So there hasn't been a lot of changes of the bill since the May meeting. The biggest change we made really was just swapping out some of the English for Lakota. So instead of seeing Great Sioux Nation in there, we took all that out. We've got Ocheti Shakoi in there as it should be. And then we also change anywhere it says Black Hills, we change that to Chesapa. So all of that is, if we're going to get Congress to listen to us and understand it from our perspective, we start with our language. So this is a bill that's kind of a blend between Lakota, our thoughts, our values, and Congress and that world. So we've got to walk that line, and I feel like this bill is a good product of that, so a good combination of that. We decided not to make too many more changes, primarily because it feels like it's at a good point right now. It feels like it reflects everyone's feelings and thoughts that were in the room and in the committee meetings from our perspective, and it feels like it has what needs to come in there from Congress's side, from the federal government's perspective. So now the next task really is we have to do is wait until we hear back from any congressman or senator who may be interested in sponsoring this bill. They have people called staffers, and Holly is here. She's going to be talking about this process next in a little more depth. But until we hear back from them, we don't know what to change. We could continue to meet and could continue to tweak it and add things and change things, but at some point we got to just rest with it and hold it and share it, not only with the congressional people, but with our own people. So the hope is that we take this draft that you have here, the one that's dated May 4th, 2024, that's the day or two after our last meeting, because it incorporated the changes from that last meeting. Take this and take it out and share it widely. Talk about it. If you have questions about it, get a hold of someone who's been on the bill drafting committee, or get a hold of someone that is knowledgeable about this. All of us, and so that's our update from our bill drafting committee. We feel like it's at a point where it's ready to be shared with Congress and with our, more importantly, with our people and with our communities right now. I'm going to pause here and see if anyone from the committee has anything that they want to add or comment on. And if there's not, then we can, if there's any questions from anyone else that we could talk about. I see Manny has his hand raised, and then Francine, I see you too. Okay, Francine.
Ampetu washne. We chach me to kahe we hemie. I'm Washichu Chaje Francine Garrow Hall, and I'm a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribal Council. I am a descendant of Hewanji One Horn, who was a signer of the 1868 treaty. I'm also a bloodline descendant of Tashunkawitko, Crazy Horse. My question is on or comment, I guess more of a comment. I've read through this, it's very good. Thank you to the committee for your efforts. And I'd also like to thank, before I begin, I'd like to thank Mr. Tilson for having the vision to bring this forward to get us all together. I appreciate that, Mr. Tilson, for your visionary leadership, and I thank you. On the first part of the act, I really believe that we should put in, as part of the language, we need to put the word legacy. We need to put the word legacy in there, because when this colonial government came, what they stole from us was our legacy that our ancestors had fought and died for. And all of the riches that were taken from us and made us an impoverished people. And this government, this colonial government, and all of its subsidiary municipalities and governments have the gall to blame us for our impoverished state. Had they not stolen our legacy, we would be very rich. We already are in terms of our culture, you know, the original instructions that were given to the peoples of the earth by the Creator. Our people have gone forth and have not forgotten what those original instructions are, and we carry those on and have for generations upon generations. So I think it's very important, because the Washichu, they recognize, they know what the word legacy means. So I think we need to put that in there. Ho hechitu, pilamiyaye.
How? Akele mecha. Da kunne prinkte ptelela. Oh, ja. You guys are all Lakota, but when you come here, you guys turn into Ramkotas. You guys know that, don't you? Just kidding. I only have one thing. So is one of the committees or even tribal government or somebody ever contacted our historic allies, the Mahpiatro and Shahinala Oyate? That's my question. At least if they are told, or at least if they're notified, I think it would be good. That way they can't say otherwise, that they've been try to contact. So, Hechitu, that's, and one other thing, I wanted to congratulate all 2024 graduates from kindergarten to college today. And I think that's in order for our people and our youth to continue on. But I wanted to make a comment on that. We live in O'Numpa. Over here. Over here, we go to this American education system and we graduate from there, and it's good. Hey, what's that? We need to continue that way. But on the Lakota way, we can't get a degree in that. It's what we do here and actually live it, that we get an invisible degree of who we are. And hopefully, in the future, that can change. Pilamaya Palu.
I can speak to that one a little bit. Well, first, anybody in the room that wants to invite other tribes to come to this meeting, anybody in this room can do that. It's not a hierarchy, it's a circle, And so I think that's one thing. Sometimes we're waiting for somebody else to reach out to the Shahila or reach out to, the Arapaho or reach out to the different tribes. But anybody in the room can do that and invite them. Our strategy from the beginning has been that a lot of times what happens is we need to create consensus amongst the Lakota. And so our emphasis so far in this our strategy so far has been to reach consensus amongst the Lakota, because we're always the hardest ones. I don't know why that is. Maybe Manny knows. Maybe everybody in the room knows. But because we are the hardest ones to reach consensus, then that's why we've been focusing on that. It hasn't been because we're trying to exclude others. It's been because we're trying to make sure that we reach consensus. Because our allies are ready to support us everywhere. And it's way easier when when we have reached consensus for our allies to support us. Even others outside of the Oshetishakoi and other Dakota tribes throughout the Oshetishakoi and our allied tribes. So that's just been the strategy moving forward. But also, anybody who feels that they should be invited to the meetings now, moving forward, then we should invite them. You should invite them, and especially now that there's momentum. We wanted to make sure that there was momentum for this idea before we, started saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, because we know what happens once we start moving too fast. The people are saying, wait, you didn't even talk to your own tribe. We didn't even talk to this treaty council. So it's been a process that we've been trying to do collectively at a slower pace. But now that there's momentum, I think it's, that's my opinion. Hachetu.
Are there any, I see Harry. I see one over here too. So I'm going to go over this way first, and then I'll come over to you, Harry.
Good morning. My name's Karen Artichoker, and I'd like to extend a handshake to each of you. I'm Oglala Lakota, enrolled member citizen. My grandmother's Emily Codier Lessert. My grandfather's John Artichoker, a Ho-Chunk. And I was just thinking we could take more than 3 minutes just introducing ourselves, Jim, but can appreciate the need for protocol. But I've done a little bit of national legislative work, and I was glancing at the summary, and before my comment, I really want to applaud everybody that was involved with drafting this, because I am well aware of how difficult and time-consuming, and it's just a lot. I know it's a lot. So I just had more of a comment and something to think about. I was just wondering about that the operation and maintenance dollars for 20 years, and then extinguishing the settlement dollars, and if it's totally unrealistic to think that maybe the settlement dollars should actually come to us and it could be used in perpetuity. You were talking about that legacy that, I mean, we're talking generations and generations for our healing here. And so I think we still deserve those dollars. And if we could use those dollars and, of course, continue to invest them, we've seen that pot of money grow and grow and grow since that settlement was offered. We could maintain and operate the land and also maybe do some other positive things with it, and then we wouldn't have this 20-year time limit. I think it needs to be in perpetuity. Just a thought, just an opinion. Take it as you will. Thank you.
How? Oh, go ahead. Ladies first.
Tokala Wombly. I just wanted to make a comment that no, I forgot to introduce myself. That took a lot to look into the future, but I just had a frame of mind here, and the comment I want to say. I'm getting close to that 3 minutes. We asked for the money, right, from the United States. You know what the United States' deficit is today? 36 trillion. That means anything. That was my comment.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Karen. Before I turn it over to you, Harry, I just wanted to respond to that. Just to be clear, one of the principles that we're standing on is that we're not taking that money. We're giving that money back. And so, we did have some conversations about, if we take the money, it needs to be retitled. We kind of kick that around a lot, trying to figure out in what way could we take that money, but no matter what we call it, we can't take that money for our land. We can't take that money, and we don't want it to ever be portrayed or look like we're taking that money for the land. So that's why in the end, this bill is written, there's no money. We're not taking the money. We're walking away from that money. And if we can't, we as Lakota people, we need to figure out how to take care of our land in 20 years. So that's why we're said 20 years, the federal government will, we put in here that the federal government will give us whatever it was spending to manage the federal lands in the Black Hills for 20 years. That gives us 20 years to manage, to use their money that they were using for it, and us figure out a way to manage it on our own. So we have to learn this, and I'm just afraid that if we try and talk about getting that money and creating a legacy endowment, there's lots of Washichu words for that. It's still gonna look like we took that money for that land, and we don't want that. We don't want that. So that's just my comment on that. I'm gonna let Harry speak, and then I see Jody raising her hand after Harry is done.
How? Here washte chanta washte yushki anapet use apelo. Let me try money melo. Na wakpa washte tran able wahi. Cha ishale Yuhana Kapke the bill drafting committee. And now Isha Yuhapo Dakuku la Danish Voyagla Gap Chim Tantash Chivokla Kapo. Charlie. Real quick, I put my timer on, so I'll try to get off before 3 minutes here. Anyway, I'd like to say briefly, real quick, that I was happy that I got the opportunity and honor to work with the bill drafting committee and with Kola, Andy, Reed, and Tracy leading us through this, the legality of this. And with all of us that were in here, in that committee, we actually named, the Tracy name. So I'd like to say congratulations, and it's been a long 3 or 4 months of this drafting, and I look forward to the meetings every time when that committee gets together. Real quickly, Nick, this goes out to Nick Tilson. Nacho. I talked to my relatives in northern Cheyenne and northern Arapaho. I got blood relatives over there, Little Thunders. And I got a chance to talk to them, and I'd asked them if they had treaty council, and they do. And I did talk to the tribal council. And I left the phone number for Indian Collective phone number and to get hold of you, Nick. I don't know if they did. This was last month. So I wanted to put that out there, and just to let you know if they called or not. And lastly, I represented the bill drafting because our great-great-grandpa, Chief Yellowhawk, was a treaty signer of 1868. I have my relatives sitting next to me, Hap, and I brought my son, Keith, and my Trakojas with me, and we all represent the Chetari Teoshpaye. And on my dad's side, I'm a descendant of Chief Little Thunder from Sichangu. And my mom, also, her father was Chief Thunderhoop Minikoju. So that, I just wanted to relate that to that treaty signing of my great-great-grandpa, Chief Yellowhawk. And there are many other people in this room that are descendants of treaty signers. And I'm glad that you're here and to listen to this bill drafting. So with that, thank you, Andy and Tracy, for those work that you did. Hopila.
Thank you, Harry. Jody, did you want to say something?
Haumitakepi. Jody Arshambo Machapi, and it's really good to be here. I just wanted to address the question about the funding, and I think some of the earlier meetings that we had in bringing the people together was they spent a lot of time with spiritual people from the Black Hills Steering Committee, and I think one of the requirements for getting the support was contingent on that question of the settlement. And so the reason we're sitting here all talking about this is because it just gets too slippery when you start bringing in the question of funding. And just wanted to, I always bring this up when we talk about the funding, is that when we went through this COVID or quarantine times, the United States gave the Ocheti Shakoi funding through there was an early COVID bill, then there was the CARES Act, and then there was ARPA. And if you add up all those bills, or add up all of that funding that came directly to the tribes, it exceeds what the government is offering for the Black Hills. And so you can see how quickly that funding just can go like that. It's just gone. And then after that, our claims are dead for the land. And so once you start down that path of discussing, well, maybe an endowment, maybe this, maybe that, and our people have gotten a lot of challenges. We've had this question, COBEL, the trust land settlement, they called it Salazar, and Keepseagle. So there's a lot of these judgment fund settlements that have come to our people, the Ocheti Shakoi, in the past, I would say 10 years. And that exceeds, I don't know what the exact dollar amount is, and the tribes have privy to that information. I don't. But it's up there. It started out at 100 million, and now it's over $1 billion. And our tribes received well over $1 billion for those 3 acts, not even counting so the point is that it goes like nothing. It's just like gas, put fire to gas and it's just gone. And so that's part of the reason that, anyways, I was taught, and the way that the people and the elders talked about it, where I grew up in Pejutahaka, and over again is they're not for sale, that there's no amount of money that could ever compensate us for that. And just because it's sitting there doesn't mean that we have to take it, doesn't mean that we have to even entertain it. And the bill is explicit about that, and that's why we have that's why we have the support we do, and we do have to. Okay, here he comes. That's it. Thanks. Miklushta.
Geez, you pushed it, Jody. 20 seconds over, too.
If I could give you a little tip, if you're going to run over the 3 minutes, maybe you can have somebody take up a question and yield you their time, if you're going to get long-winded.
Getting all parliamentarian now.
I wanted to address that question also about the money. That decision's been made. We had ceremony. Every meeting that we had since we started this, we said that we were not doing this for the money. It's also a strategy because we know that the money was created for the purpose of dividing our people. That's why it was created. It wasn't just compensation, and there was nothing just about it. And it sits there, accumulates interest, and further divides our people. And that's why we didn't want to accept it. We didn't want to accept the money as an organizing strategy because it would prevent progress from getting the land back. It would prevent progress from this bill happening because we are not united on that issue. And so that's why the intent has been clear, to focus on the land, and that's why, and that commitment's been made to people about the intent and purposes of this meeting. That intent was made when a chanupa was filled and taken to ceremony, and we went before the spirits, and that intention is being fulfilled right now today as members of the spiritual committee are going to sacred sites to take that intention there too. So just wanted to clarify that that has been the intention since the beginning of this effort. And that consensus to move this effort forward, that was already decided. So I share that because, I shared that at the beginning when I said, what is the purpose of this meeting? The purpose is not about the settlement money. The purpose is about the land. And so accountability to the Tugashulas, to the altars, to the spirits, just wanted to clarify that many things had happened and been put in place to move forward for this work too. So that's it too.
Thank you, Nick. With that, I think we're going to be done with the bill drafting committee report. Like I said, you all have a copy of it, and I encourage you to take it out, share it with your family. Oh, we got Steve. Okay, hold on. One last comment.
Wopila chicha paluya. Literally, haimna kawito hita kabna wars ake aikwak. Honale otruka nach onach oha. Mit reits mi hasan nu akakina. Ik tablinkte het jamina. Omoprakte. Etsi hanik. Ta kon lila. Shitu un kokich ampiwa shitu ya. Na makroche kilet un kitsimple. Tcha na mo shitu ki sloleapo. Moses ka yena yapshe. Ta kun kokich amkia. Lala nunchi moya enerjet absin chimsin tcha. Che alt apelo. En eerste awitje to makainas is daar meneer ochtjaars no maka. Ze let gegaan nach ja skama ik ta brengt. Ik ta opgebracht. Het zo'n wel hielen. En ik loeien national het zo hielen. Wars ake tan hiwachu. Na kable na etchim malak khotat. Mochian kamokha yokpi maaplo. Eanisna tako nach. Wasijiki na ito zugjo nignang ktelo. Mokha hetslewa na hetsli hon yanka. Washi chu mere washi manu e chake. Ashinchi achuche washi manu sa wine check up. Whereas le bill drafting up kille washi le prinkte. When we first started looking at the bill and started putting words together, I had to think to myself, not kind of let the other members know that this thing that we're writing is going to be read by some Washichu Che Hancock. So we have to use their words to make them understand what we want, what why we want this back and all that, so forth. And that's what Achnik with Chimpi. So opge onze was Jacob staat da le jong Jacob nie woonkelike. Dat twak opgawe na Oslolia pitaku un kaki problem. Is yetsel meetsel mo kakisme taak un chumhe. Hotel het zo'n opgemit in eerst het ook heb opgeet op met taakje opgeet op taakje op het ons agion kan houden nou tako akaba pratia ihani o troslet Moses kalum kiki chumhanta ptechaka ya.
Tisha, did I see you have your hand raised? Okay, go ahead. Okay.
O ptechaka ya ta yuski e chak de het bringt het watching ka. Wat een naam zich op de mo gewopela ziet je appelo. Oh, het zit wel. How?
Oh, are you done? Still, Tracy? Oh, okay. I'll answer a little bit of the why we are not being able to bring the other tribes or the relatives that are from the Cheyenne and the other places. I think we have to all go out, and whoever wants to go do these things, we have to all meet up and create a big meeting for that purpose of gathering all our traditional relatives that are going to be creating the Ocheti Sakoin delegation. That needs to be put in place yet, and so we have a legal entity to bring all these here things for signature and also for all our people to understand what their role and things are. Because this year, Ocheti Shakoi has got to be done by all the fires that are on that Ocheti Shakoi. But the lead is the Titua of the Lakota. So this is where we are at. We have to understand, educate ourselves on what fire we belong to, and also be inclusive of the relatives of Ocheti Shakoi allies. And those are done by ceremonies and protocols to be inclusive of all of them so that they bring all their societies to these meetings or representatives to these meetings. And so I think June 24, 25, there's one of those meetings over at the Little Bighorn Battlefield. And I'll be attending that one, so I'll put that question out there for them. There's another treaty meeting in Standing Rock starting on the 21st, and they should also come up with that solution or question over there and make kind of a time for us to have an Ocheti Sakoin delegation meeting somewhere on our lands so that we can address all these issues. And so I think that's what I would propose, for those of you that want to be getting involved in such a high scale, because it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of commitment, and sometimes it takes a lot of money to feed a lot of people. And we have to find a place that can gather, where we can gather that is large enough for the Ocheti Sakoin to gather. So those are things we've got to put out there and work towards. And so the next thing we have on our schedule, on the agenda, is a legislative advocacy. And that will be done by Holly Cook Macaro and Jody Archambault, if you can make your way up here and take on this next task here, so legislative advocacy. And they will tell you what they're working on. And I thank you all for listening.
Anin Buju, Paganigishigo Quain de Genakaz, Makwa Nindodem, Mesquagami Wizagaganing in Donjaba. My name is Hole in the Sky Woman, or Holly Cook Macaro. I'm from the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota, and I do government affairs for Indian Collective.
Jody Archambault, Emachapi, thank you.
So I'm going to give a status of where we are and next steps. I think Nick announced that, I think you did, our next meeting won't be until the fall. The Senate Committee on Indian Affairs has our draft of the bill, and they've sent it over to Legislative Council. As I've mentioned at the previous meetings, when a bill is about to be drafted, the Legislative Council, which is a nonpartisan body within the Senate, is kind of like a service, I guess I would say, for senators and members of Congress to draft legislation, to have it conform to the legal language with the correct references, et cetera. So they've had it for about a month. I touched base with them this week. They haven't received anything back from Leg Council. They are also looking at it to ensure that we get a reference to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. Sometimes bills get a split referral, is what we call it. You know, a bill is introduced in the full Senate, the parliamentarian then assigns it to a committee. We want to make sure that this bill goes to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs and not to the Energy and Natural Resource Committee, given all of the lands and the subject in there. So that's what's happening now. We hope to have that feedback within the next month or so. It's appropriations season in Washington, D.C. Both the House and the Senate are consumed with passing the government funding bills. Senator Schumer is also very focused on getting as many federal judges moved through the Senate as possible. So time is of the essence, and in terms of the time that we have left in this administration, today's June 15th, so they will be in session for another 2 weeks. Then they'll go out for the 4th of July. They'll be back in for 2 weeks at the end of July. They'll be out then the entire month of August and the first part of September. They'll come back for about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, about 2.5 weeks at the end of September, and then they're going to adjourn on September 30th and to go home to campaign for the election, either their own campaigns or for their presidential candidate. So we won't see Congress back then. That's just a few weeks when you look at that schedule. And so then we won't see Congress back then until, I think it's the 12th or the 14th of November. And they're scheduled to be in for about 2 weeks, go out for Thanksgiving, 2 weeks in December. So even though we're only halfway through the year, there's not that many weeks left in the congressional calendar. And when we come back, when we meet again in the fall, we should have some feedback on the bill, and we'll have some work to do on that feedback. And as I have mentioned, they are going to conform that bill to what they want it to look like. In addition to that, we're going to have some new work to do when we begin these meetings, and I'm so glad that we have the resolution from Standing Rock. I really encourage the remaining tribal councils to pass those resolutions. It's going to be the first question we're asked when we all begin going in to do these hill visits and meeting with the department, whether at Ag or at Interior. Who's supporting this? Who's supporting this? So having those are very powerful. And so I'm hopeful we can, when we return, we have more of those as well. I was really glad to see that the Standing Rock resolution included the language requesting the technical assistance at the Department of Interior. That's an important next step for us as well, that we request that meeting and that we request the technical assistance. They're ready to go. They're ready to give us that help. We just need to get a tribe to send in that meeting request. If it would be helpful, and we can email out kind of a generic draft of the language or examples of Standing Rock's resolution or the drafts that have been out there. Maybe we can do that as a follow-up to this meeting, Tracy. The next questions that they're going to ask after they ask who's supporting it, and we begin that pass back and forth after we get their feedback, is they're going to ask about management. They're going to ask about access. They're going to ask a lot of questions that we haven't drilled down to yet in the bill. So this is, even though this is an important milestone, this meeting today, where we are at that point where we're getting, the bill is in, we are hopeful we'll have a how it's managed and who still has access. So that is where we're at. That's what we have to look forward to. I thank everyone for all of their hard work in getting us there. If we have developments on sponsors, et cetera, I'm sure Nick or Tracy will send that out via email to our list. If there are any questions or about the status, any of that, Allie Moran, who couldn't make it today over at Cheyenne River, she leads our legislative committee, or Jody and I are available to help as well.
I just wanted to underscore that the next step is to get that feedback, and that the draft that you have in front of you, it will continue to change based on compromised in order to get the bill passed, to get the land back. And so that's going to be, I think it's really important that we have unity, that we want the land back. And how we get it back, if you look at the Bradley bill, there were a lot of things in there that were changed in this draft, and it had to do with the mining and the timber. And so you can imagine that those are the things that are going to continue to come up as points that the Congress will be asking about, but that's not to, I'm just saying this because I don't want to build expectation that what we're presenting here is what we're going to get, and that this is the process that lots of tribes have used to get land back in other areas of the country, and that this is just something we have to keep going. We have to keep making it clear to the United States that we want the land back. And I think the tribal support resolutions, first of all, I would just want to thank everybody, all the people who have continued to come back and make this a priority, taking time out of your day, because the people are really who are the most important in this bill. The people have to be the center of this bill. And if the people want this, then it's going to happen, and we have to believe that. Even if it doesn't happen this year or next year or the next year, we have to believe that the people, and we have to show the grandkids that this is what we want. The other thing is that the tribal councils, they answer to the people. And the way that it happened in Standing Rock is we had esteemed elders go to tribal council and go through a regular process. And so Lekshi and Tui Goodhouse, they went before judicial, and anybody in here can do the same thing. We're also going to go to the districts, and we're going to hold conversations with them. And even by the act of going out there and talking about it, it brings it makes it a bigger priority in people's minds. That's why we're doing this. So the back and forth that's going to come in the fall, it's going to be hard, but just sticking together and keeping in mind that we can do this, and the unity that's going to be required about the main provisions of getting the land back is have to keep going back to. The other thing is and I'm of, you know, Holly's worked with Congress. I've worked in the administration, so that's kind of my stronger area of work. And we always kind of, she's my adopted sister, and she is also really good at what she does in Congress. I would say that there's timelines that are stated about the Congress, and there's not, you know, they're not going to meet that much and all of that. That's for awareness. It's not to push people into hasty decisions. It's not to push people into making like this the most urgent thing. But we just have to be aware that election's coming. There's not very many days. It's hard to get people's attention, and we're going into a weird election year. And all of that's going to impact how quickly people work with us. But at the end of the day, the legislative effort, we have really good people. You know, even if the tribes are talking about it on the floor, and I think Anessa and her group is going to talk a little bit more about this, but the tribes are supporting the idea of legislation. So I want to just reiterate and underscore that resolution in Rock is the idea. And I think they'll talk more about that.
I thought Jim was cutting your mic again, but no, I think that's it.
I have a question. You know, the Ogallala, Cheyenne River, Standing Rock, and Rosebud have signed co-stewardship agreements with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Forest Service. I think that strengthens this effort because we're getting our people trained on how to manage this land. There's going to be identification of indigenous plants, medicines, you know, that our people use. So I think if we also keep that in mind, you know, this committee that goes before SKIA or whomever, you know, that they put this message forward that, you know, as tribal governments, we are doing the preparatory work, okay? Thank you.
Yes, that is absolutely a great point, that we can demonstrate capacity, the training, and do all that. Thank you for raising that.
I got a question. For the legislative committee, job well done, a lot of good information. I'm part of the Treaty Council with the Wakapawashte Oyate Topa, and I just talked to Andy Reid, one of the lawyers, and Manny Arnott. And when you guys go to Washington, D.C. to see the staffers of legislators for negotiation, now this is my first time, you know, with this situation. The Treaty Council, I think we talked about that a while back on Zoom, that the Treaty Council should be there during negotiations. And we did talk to Tracy, I believe, recommended 2 people or 3 to be on that negotiation from the Treaty Council. And I guess we'd like to hear your input.
So most certainly the people are the ones who would have to be the representatives. It wouldn't be any of the logistics or the organization of Indian Collective or other organizations that are behind it. It has to be the people, representatives from the treaty councils and the tribes. And I don't want to jump ahead too much into naming who or how many or anything like that. I think it's important that you guys, that Harry, you guys have a voice there. That's something that is absolutely the intent of how this is going to go.
We will continue to play the role of facilitator, and certainly I or any, the folks on the committee are not authorized to do any sort of negotiation. What we can help with is facilitating the pass back, which will go directly back to, Tracy as the head and the rest of the legal eyes on the drafting committee, and then any changes would come before the group.
I got a question. like Harry was saying, we're on a treaty council. And we're not recognized on Cheyenne River, but we know we're the original ones there. And my question was what Harry asked. The treaty councils have to be involved all through this process. And the other thing is, when we had our committee meetings, we need to get what you guys pointed out this now is we need to get our city council people, tribal council people, and whoever in these for the funding and the management. We need to start those meetings now. Because like you said, they're gonna come up in the fall. And if we don't start the meetings now, we'll probably be running behind again, but we need to have those meetings beginning immediately. The other thing I wanted to comment to is Wounded Knee 1890 removed the Stain Act. We're still fighting for that too. And that's going to be presented in December. And so we're not giving up. I think the whole of Washington, D.C. and the Senate, I think they know that we're not going to give up. And that's going to be the first process to remove those medals, which doesn't belong there. So, thank you.
My name is Bob Hall. I'm a Arikara and Hidatsa. The Arikara side of me, we're all Missouri River people. We started further south, and as pressure came and illness, we ended up moving up into what's now North Dakota. So I want to acknowledge the idea of involving other tribes, though somewhat distant in recent time from being acknowledged of being out here. I will make a personal commitment to talk to the leaders back home in government and encourage them to be aware and get informed on this. The United States blew a real opportunity after 9/11 of reaching out and making peace around the world. Instead, they used fighting as their answer. We have a real opportunity after No DAPL to pick up on that goodwill and make it fit this. Other tribes have been getting land back, and this is just another bigger step in that direction. Two things in here jump out at me. On page 10, item 4, payment to valid existing rights holders. The United States shall use the judgment fund to pay holders of valid existing rights at the time of return the value of the remaining term of the right. That's a good use of that money they've got set aside for this, not trying to use it as leverage. The second thing that jumped out is on page 14, item D, access to return lands by other Native nations. The Ochedishikoi and its governing entity in the spirit of peaceful relations pledges to respect and honor the access to the Haisapa by other Native peoples, nations and peoples with ancestral ties to the Haisapa for spiritual and traditional purposes. I think that really needs to be emphasized. Thank you.
Okay. Just a quick, sorry, I'm just going to give a quick clarification on that judgment fund reference. That is not the settlement money. That is the Department of Justice's judgment fund that settles claims against the federal government, but not the Black Hills settlement money. Yeah.
Amitakiapi, Vishia Takuni Prachi, Emmanuel Redbear Machap. Back in 1990, Lelwati Lakota Holmes. Back then, there was a Senator Bradley bill trying to get the Black Hills back. There's about 10 other people that put in Bradley bill, Black Hills bills. Etakio and Najuju. Everything fell apart because everybody and their dog wanted a bill to get the Black Hills back. 1990, we've been working on this, dealing with this Black Hills issue about getting our land back. Since then, there was elected leaders like Baraka, President Baraka, what's his last name? Obama came to Standing Rock. Everybody thought that it was a good time to get this Black Hills bill into Congress when Obama was a president. Since then, I've been having meetings, and now we got Biden in there. What's going to happen if Trump gets in? What all we work for is going to go down the tube. So there's a window of opportunity. There's a window of opportunity for these people that are working on this to make that opportunity happen in Congress and in Washington. So anyway, my question was, when is this window of opportunity coming up before the election? And we got to collaborate together as treaty councils, IRA governments, and traditional people to work together. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. We've been working on Lakota language summit all these years, and we got some Washichus that created orthography. Now we're using theirs. So tuhan Washichu aji hihanin takia chuha hechitulo.
Push the button
Just-
on the mic.
Yep, push the button on the mic right there. Here, Jody's going to help you.
Whip down on the ground for a while. I'm going to talk about put the whip down. Okay, Hoana. It's just a reminding and think about it. We talk about hey, Sapa land back. Instead, I can't, who I am, my name, that's different. The bottom line, we talk about the hey, Sapa land back. That's the bottom line. I want to mention a little bit, just a few, remember and think about it. We got some people here, the findings. Okay, why Congress is not in bill? Tell us about the history. Who we are, where we come from. That's the history. That's the history. Spiritual. Wakantranka, Tronkashila, that's Chanumpa. legal connection no chichi shakoi. We're all tioshbai. We say tioshbai. We're not even organized of 18 tioshbai or chichi shakoi. We're not even organized yet. We need to come up with organized our tioshbais. All we say is tioshbai. All we say who we are. All we say my name, all of that. That's different. That's a different. So techi shakoi. Detail how the land stolen, how the federal government. Okay, federal government. We have 1868 treaty, Missouri River all the way up to this way. What happened? The Red Cloud Act. Red Cloud. He hold the pencil, and he put his thumb on the paper. 1877 Act. Okay, that's how 1877 Act, half of our black kills was stolen. That's how they stole under the 1877 Act. But what Red Cloud say? We chonchake ichitopaki Lakota wakukte. Those 1 year Lakotas, you guys understand that, what I'm saying? I think there's no Lakotas here now. Hey, hey, Mishnah la Lamakota seche. Hey, hey. Ohena yankeki e. Ohechia hena ekta yankeki. We chon chase ichitopa eki. The fourth generation will become a Lakota. The government is saying from Washington, D.C., every rights they gave it to us 1917, they make a bill. Self-sufficient, self-government. We're sovereign nation. We are a sovereign nation. Halakota wakuki, ekihe, the fourth generation, we should be all educate themselves. I guess we all educate ourselves so we can speak Lakotas. We can understand Lakotas. And that's what Red Cloud wants. It's just a reminding, and think about it. Let's take about the Haisapa land back. Let's talk about that instead of kind of who we are and my name is, all of that. Let's put that on the side. To get the bottom line, talk about the Balisapas. Thank you much. Wopila.
Excuse me for speaking in front of you again. My name is Louis Chinese, and I just wanted to bring up, our leaders from a long time ago. One of them was famous for talking with Washington D.C. That's Mahpia Luta. So I want to say that, but in terms of the management at the end process of litigation, the other parts all kind of look good. I was just referencing each paragraph with AI, and it seems like the AI kind of has all the text involved with this whole country history, most of it anyway. But Arikara brought out a point about the properties that they developed, like here in Rapid City. Some of these buildings are all abandoned, big old huge parking lots. Why don't we make a cheese factory utilize Nebraska's milk cow industry. That's part of our territory. You know, that's one of those plans that I wanted to say, you know, before I maybe forget or Alzheimer's ever gets hold of want me or whatever. So that was my comment, on my question or comment.
Excuse me, I have a comment. I just got a text and one of the elders just now asked me a question. And I think that should have been with Tracy answering that, but the legislative committee as well. The text message and elder just asked me, I know that we don't want the money, period. But what the question was, is there a back rent? That was a question. And I'm going to say, text unknown. I better not say that name.
Tracy, did you want to answer this question? Pardon? Oh, I think you said back rent, correct?
Correct. That question was back rent. And I think maybe Tracy can handle that, or Andy?
I can try and answer that. So yes, no money. We're not taking money. No money. The way the bill is written, look at section 17 where it says extinguishment of claims. That's the way the language is written. Do you want me to read it? So the way it's written, it says, I'll just read it. Upon fulfillment of the provisions set forth in this act, all damages, claims regarding the value of the returned lands of the Chesapa by the Ocetishakoi, let me try that again. Upon fulfillment of the provisions set forth in this act, all damages, claims regarding the value of the returned lands of the Chesapa by the Ocetishakoi, or any of its member nations or bands, its people, and any successor in interest to the Treaty of September 15, 1851, and the Treaty of April 29, 1868, are extinguished by this act, without extinguishing, compromising, or affecting any claims for damages as reparations for the pre-return harm to such lands. So if maybe that answers your question, Harry, about pre-return harm, for the pre-return lost use of the lands, and for the pre-return loss of resources. So maybe it's not back rent, but that's the way it's written in the bill as it's proposed now.
Yeah, I agree. We are getting reparations as far as tribal governments are going. And I learned that every October 1st that every tribal government gets their fiscal year, that's the reparations that they get. And I believe the research had said something about damages paid to Indian people by the United States government. And that's reparation, that's the people. And somebody said that's the treaty money. So those are things that I researched about, and I believe the damages that was discussed over that time was all our indigenous people across this hemisphere, over 100 million of our indigenous people lie across this land. And then all the damages that they did was the taking the Black Hills gold, the mine, damaging, putting the 4 faces on Mount Rushmore, and the buffalo. The damage is there. And they killed millions and millions of buffaloes, their relatives. So that list goes on for reparations. So I believe it's international law, where even World War II, the Japanese people received reparations when they were put into concentration camps in California and other places. And then the African Americans for slavery. Also doing research from that, and I know I'll probably get somebody upset. The black people weren't the first slavery. The Native American indigenous people were the first slavery. In 1493, when Columbus took some indigenous people back to Spain and then turned them into slaves. So yeah, reparations, Hechutu.
I have a question over here, okay? Tokel in Chanupa Gruha Money and Machapi. You all know me as Dennis Dwayne Martin. Le Makhoche Iwagla on Lila Ota Tiata Okachni Kapsne. They don't understand what you're all doing over here. Nahukena Waglihoni Hunter walks up a kilena one chagana with chalk. So I have to explain it because I belong to the Grego Society, okay, the Wamblikotas. One of the things that really is detrimental to what you're doing here is this only consist of public land, or is it the whole, tri-state area of where the land originated from? See, Lila Ota washichu tchawa specule okachni gapsne, okay? They don't, because they're still full blood, like Richard was saying. Am I the only one? Well, no, there's a lot more. Cha hena echa yakawintona doske hena weaglaking tekile. A lot of them can't come because of certain, traveling arrangements, because they're diabetes and whatnot. But as a spokesperson to help them, I said, I'll go again. But takule ochicha koktekile wakanja chik alona ha wichoy chakikile lakota iwung lakokile kachni gapsne. See, because he mentioned if he was the only one. So I was raising my hand, and I hope he saw it. But what they were saying, dua tiata ki naha wakanki lena oichakakinahe, they're only focusing on public land. Cha iukchawa, I'm letting them talk amongst themselves. Cha hohe echa le wonyikile hiuchi chapi. Is that true or false about public land? That's my question.
Tracy, the bill refers to federal lands, and the draft that we have refers to federal lands. Then there's an option of first refusal on private or quit claims on others. But this bill is the return of federal lands. Which is, as Nick noted, is 80% of the Black Hills, the federal lands. Two more questions and we got to do lunch. So.
I think, Jody, it was you that mentioned that this was similar to a process that other tribes had followed in getting some of their land back, and they were successful. And so the first part of my question is, has there been any communication with any of those tribes to sort of see, not maybe the specifics, but what worked for them? What could we use in going through this process that will help us more? And maybe even, more support coming from others that have been successful. And then the other part of my question is, in those states, Because we know that the delegation from South Dakota is like completely against this because they want to keep exploiting. But in those states where they were successful in getting their land back, has there also been communication with those congressional delegations to maybe seek additional support? That's my question. I just want to keep moving forward with this and not keep talking about other stuff. Thank you.
Thanks. Those are really good, those are great questions, because I did mention other tribes use, it's not this process. Getting land back through Congress is something that does happen on occasion, and it's hard. And usually it does require some congressional, it usually requires congressional support in that state. And it's my understanding that, so I've only worked on a couple of them. When I was in the administration, I worked for President Barack Obama for 6 years, and there was one in particular that was the Salish and Kootenai tribe, and it was like a long process. There was like a 70-year plan to get back the bison range, and it was also to get back the dam, and to get, there was a lot of different moving parts to that. So yes, and I would say that this group is not communicating with those tribes because every single process is different for a congressional route. And I don't think that a lot of the tribes that have received land back, there's a lot of parties. So, I think Lexi Rick Two Dogs said it best, that we're all divided on purpose. Like, we have a lot of tribal governments, we have big tribal councils, all of that is very challenging. When you have like one tribe, and they have control over all the thing that they're talking about, it's different. And I think, but at the same time, I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible. And I think I refer to other tribes because there has been success. Your question about other, this is just gonna take time. I think we've said this over and over again, that if we don't do this, this is generational work. If we don't keep doing this, then we really have lost our way. And so even if it's gonna be hard, and I always think about the Tatanka and how they travel, because it's a storm, do they stop? They don't. They keep going into it. And that's just how we have to be. We just have to keep going. And yeah, it's easy to say why this won't work, why it's gonna be hard, but it's also easy to say how strong our ancestors and our relatives are. So I don't wanna say that, it's an easy path, but definitely tribes have gotten land back through Congress. The biggest thing that, when I was in the administration, that I saw is that the main people who were asking for the Black Hills back was the treaty councils. Letters every year. They were always asking for them back. And the way that the government works, the tribes came through 1 year in 2009, but the tribal governments didn't ask in a unified voice for it back. So that's part of the way, we've learned from that process, and that's why we have to stand together.
Yeah, I'm going to mention a little bit, just a few words. Remember, we're not United States people. We're indigenous sovereign nation. We talk about the land. Hisapa under, there's two treaties. Remember, there's two treaties. 1868 Treaty, 77 Act. Now we talk about both crossed over each other. 1868, and the other one is the Federal Treaty Act. That's a different one. So remember that. So we want our land back under 1868 Treaty, not 77. 77's not shot. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Always on our minds. I'm going to answer this one, the legislative piece, quick in terms of the additional outreach to the other states. Because we don't have a supportive delegation from the state of South Dakota, we will have to go to the other states. We have an ask out to Senator Brian Schatz from the state of Hawaii, we're likely going to start with Congressman Grijalva. He's been out, he has cancer, but he's the ranking member on the House Natural Resources Committee. And then at the same time, he's probably going to reach out to the tribes in his state, to the extent that the return of the Black Hills is a symbol to all of Indian country about the return of our lands, then we're going to also probably have to reach out to tribes for support. I don't think we'll have any trouble. On the other piece, in terms of have we done it before, part of our next steps on that technical assistance, I'm just finishing this question. On the technical assistance piece is we will get the knowledge and some of the best practices of the land back situations, you know, as Jody referenced. Some of them have been administrative through co-stewardship, co-management at Bears Ears, others that y'all have seen in the news. There are good examples of cooperative agreements that we can take best practices from, but part of that we'll get from the technical assistance request. Sorry, Francine.
Thank you. In reading this, Section 17, extinguishment of claims, the Treaty of 1851 established the boundaries. If you read it, it established the boundaries of the Oceti-Sakowin, the Great Sioux Nation. If you read the 1868 treaty, that treaty stated what the federal government was responsible for providing for the for our people, you know, and that it stated that a doctor, teacher, and of course, you know, a blacksmith and so forth, those kinds of positions that that you would find in a town that would provide services to the people. So we go back to that Treaty of 1868. We've reminded the federal government, and we've been successful in putting it in legislation, that the federal government has a trust responsibility for health and for education. And we recognize as tribal governments that we need to do more work putting that into additional legislation. So my concern is the language stating that these two treaties are going to be extinguished by this act. Is that correct? I'm a little concerned about that language. Thank you.
Is it okay if I answer that one, or try to answer? Okay. Francine, first of all, 17 doesn't say that. It says, and I'll read it again, once this act is passed, all damages claims regarding the value of the returned lands of the HESAPA, so it's just are extinguished. So it's talking about the value of the returned lands. And then if you read that in conjunction with Section 16, Section 16 is pretty robust, or there's a lot in there too. Basically, those two say, and I'll read them too, all treaties formally entered into between the United States and the Oceti-Sakowin or any of its member nations or bands are continued in full force and effect, and any other claims which the Oceti-Sakowin or any of its member nations or bands or peoples or the governing entity may have against the United States are neither extinguished nor prejudiced. So everything else in the treaties is staying, we're not taking away any of those privileges or rights.
Thank you.
Tracy, I got a question that didn't, before the treaties, the land belonged to Oceti-Sakowin. And the 20%, 80%, 20% is public land, right, Tracy?
Yeah, within the federal lands within the Black Hills.
Okay. So prior to treaty, the land belonged 100% to the Oceti-Sakowin, correct? So the 20%, they're talking about what is above what is on the land. That land under the pavement is also treaty land. Under the highway is treaty land. 100%. Covering the 1851. That was a question that came in, and I'm not going to mention names.
What was the question?
I think on page, I'm trying to review my memory here. I think it was on page 16 where it said something, there was a question about the interstates and the highways. That wasn't included in that bill, correct?
Yeah, this bill is not, doesn't get into that level of specificity of being specific about highways and easements. Well, I should say that, I shouldn't say that. On the easements, there is a section in here. If you look at, on page 10, so we start out by saying federal lands. So within the racetrack, any federal lands are going to get returned back to the Oceti Sakowin. And then and that's what section 5 is talking about, is restoration of those sacred Chesapa lands. And so what's going to happen in section 5, this is basically what it says. The first step we're going to do is we're going to inventory the lands. We're going to figure out what's private land, what's town-owned, like city-owned land, what's county, what's state, what's federal lands, and then within there, within that, the federal lands, within I think a year after that, they will be returned to us. On page 10, section B, it talks about the process of getting those federal lands back. And it says in there under B3, the quit claim and relinquishment made under this section will terminate any claimed existing rights except those of the Oceti Sakowin, including but not limited to a legal word, escheat, reservations, easements, leases, permits, agreements, contracts that exist under the public land laws of the United States. So if there's an easement on federal land, let's say for a road, that's going to get quit claimed or given to Oceti Sakowin. And what we choose to do with it, that's going to get terminated. And if we choose to issue an easement for a road over our land, we can choose to do that. But the way it's written now, that easement, any easement or right that the federal government has given over federal land within the racetrack, those are all gone. Does that answer your question, Harry?
Including the Bear Butte, Matro Tipila?
We did include Mato Tipila in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I guess I just got some text. I think somebody was listening and wanted me to defray that question. Chanupa had that question on public lands. Do you have anything further than that, Chanupa?
What was that question again, Harry?
The question that came in was that prior to the treaties, every piece of land, every blade of grass belonged to the Oceti Sakowin. And that should be part of the discussion and put in the bill. I think that's what the question is. And there's a lot of elders have that same belief. They were taken away. There was so the land underneath Rapid City, you know, across this hemisphere, we have bodies, you know, like they were buried and so on. So if you, like one lady elderly said, every step you take 5 feet away is a body that was buried across this land. And there was a case, I think Manny was just talking about in Nebraska, about the Ponca tribe returning their sacred sites and land. And there was remains that were under the ground. If Manny, if he can recite that, or yeah. Okay.
Optelela, wena loachi. To me, some of these questions are for when we get the land back, and then we can address them. But so what's Harry referring to is the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, and I found this out doing a little bit research. Had to do with the Wounded Knee 1890 massacre, and the state of Nebraska stole 300 Ponca ancestral skeletons, and they didn't want to give them back. So that started a whole court for like 10 years or so. And the Ponca tribe prevailed. But it was an interesting case, and maybe some of you lawyers are familiar with that case. All I did was I read it through because it's all about reparation and of our sacred belongings as well. From Wounded Knee, 1890, from Barre, Massachusetts. So that was the connections that I read, and it's just appalling that they claim that's not theirs. It's something like the Chetapa here, you know. It's not theirs, yet they took every avenue to steal this land. And that's what our ancestors began to resist. And we've come a long way today as we stand here. And we stand in prayers. We stand in unity with all the tribes that are willing to help and support us.
Okay, we got one more question. I think it's Keith over there. Is he gone? There he is. He came out of the doorway over there. He's the last question, and we're gonna go into the lunch.
I think if I may, okay.
One question, we'll do the prayer, then we'll go right back into it at 1 o'clock.
I got a comment then. If Keith isn't here?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Okay, Keith, go ahead.
Right. To be read. There we go. Oh, I don't have no question, but I got a couple comments real quick. Just want to, real quick, so everybody knows me. Keith Janice, that's it. I was born in Rapid City. I live in a Pioneer Indian Reservation mostly all my life. But I was asked to be on this legislative committee, and I haven't been able to make it because of death and other things that have been going on in my life. And plus, it's kind of hard because I can't see too good. And when you guys need, all I have is a cell phone, you know, so I can't even read nothing. And so it's kind of been hard for me to participate. But now that I'm here, I just want to mention a few things. Last meeting, there were some elders here, and they were talking about they were hoping that something could be included in this bill to talk about to help the bill. actually at the international level and maybe put in something in this bill that talks about the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and provisions in there that are being violated daily by the United States against the Lakota people. And other thing is like the treaty violations. I think it needs to be put in there too, what the treaty violations are in this bill, exactly how, because the Black Hills and taking the Black Hills, I was mentioned earlier, that was a treaty violation in itself. So I think we need to express that, which articles were violated to create that existing management of the Black Hills as it is today. And then also some elders were here last meeting, they were talking about all these years of land use of the United States on the land that is Black Hills. They were hoping that somebody would gather up the information about how much money and all that stuff was spent and taken out of the Black Hills. And also the 7 sacred sites, if somebody could put in here, describe what they are and where they are and what the significance is. And there's more, but my time's running out. So I'm just going to say thank you to everybody and all of you that have been working hard to put this forward, back at 100%. Wopila tzaka.
Wopila lo kis. Ho wana wointak that's wana ihatulo. It's time to eat, so we're gonna have a prayer medicine song, Pijutola from Creekside 2 times through, and Richard Mooskamp will be saying the meal prayer for us this afternoon. And then also a quick announcement. I'd like to honor the Ampa Wichakpi Owaiwa ladies there, girls, to help us today, and give them a round of a hand because they're going to be serving all you out. Yeehaw. To the front of the line, let them go through because they will be making a plate for the elders. So just give them that opportunity to do that. And one more thing, what is it?
Thank you, Ivan. I forgot. I was told to say that for those of you that ordered vegetarian meals,
right.
Let them know when you get to the table. They've got them pulled off to the side over here, so just let them know and they will hand you the vegetarian meal.
All right, yeah. Those of you that are not meat eaters, there's a vegetarian plate over there. You just let the ladies in the back there in the black shirts know that you are a vegetarian and you eat a vegetarian plate. Okay, I think that's about it. Okaki pejuta alo aji ahiam nahita tahashi wochiki inkta lo hahu echitu.
Hoyat Kashla Woitekilena lost in a Lawakhankte. Kahana Pejuta Yetcher Mitaku Yata Ayapina. Ichek Pikarapina Hetche Zania. Ovenichekile lost in a Petukile Hetche Wabanke. Which Hozan in a Taku Wabel as Washte Hinamkte. Or Hetche to the Mitakas.
Oh, Tashi, Opula.